I'm back. We've been here for years. 5 years, as a matter of fact. It'll be 5 years this summer that we started under construction. You, Vince, Rodney, me behind the camera. That's kind of crazy. You think about
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Uh,
And I guess after 5 years, man, kind of needed a break. Last 3 weeks, huh?
yeah, just some real life shit. You know,
Yeah.
it, my dog's fucking barking at somebody in the cul-de-sac. I live in a cul-de-sac now. So, but the world don't stop spinning, and neither does the NFL offseason or the NBA season, for that matter.
And neither does under construction, guys. I know we've been away for a while, but like Kaza said, life happens. We'll just keep it at that without disclosing too much information. Life happens, but under construction still happens as well, fellas.
Yep. But you know what? What's funny is when you guys last saw us, um, we made a statement. The Charlotte Hornets had just completed the trade deadline. We got all these new players. We played a game against the Memphis Grizzlies, I believe. We won. They looked completely different. They just like a whole new team. And you and I we said, hey, Hornets fans, something's gonna happen. Hornets gonna go on a win streak.
It's gonna get everybody excited.
Everybody gonna be all excited. We're gonna love all these new players. And then the honeymoon will be over. Now, we hadn't seen y'all since, but we were right. Because
Things feel a lot. Things feel normal now, right?
They went with what, 6-1 in that stretch, with the one loss coming to Golden State, right?
Right.
That's pretty good. Since then, they've gone 2-9, and I'm already tired of seeing half these guys. I'm just tired of seeing them.
Well, you can't be too tired of seeing a couple of them because some of them are already hurt. So
yeah,
it feels very normal around here, quite honestly.
we had a great homecoming for Seth Curry. We were all excited. Del Curry got to call a game where both his sons were playing against each other for the first time ever. It was a great moment in Charlotte history. Where's Seth Curry been since then?
On the bench, hurt. Just like LaMelo, just like Mark Williams.
Just the whole street clothes brigade just lined up. Seth Curry just fit right in there. I was expecting Gordon Hayward to come back and just, take his seat at the street clothes convention. So, however, having said that, though, I don't want to say that those moves that the Hornets made were fool's gold at all. I think that they found something there, right? I believe Vasily Micic is as good as advertised, and I think Trey Mann, the Hornets, found their backup point guard of the future. Having said that, it's still pretty much Brandon Miller and Miles Bridges. Like, without either of them, the Hornets probably wouldn't win any more games the rest of the season. So, and at this point, I don't think we're certainly not going to see LaMelo Ball again. We're not going to see Mark Williams again. We're just going through the motions till the end of the season.
All right, so here comes I have to present a hot take question every week, man. And look, I already know how you're going to answer this, but this has to be asked because it's a hot take question.
All right.
What do you say to fans who are just already over LaMelo Ball? Look, Kaza, wait. 2 seasons ago, we had the LaMelo Ball coat that was ready to fight us, literally.
Yeah.
If you said anything negative about this dude.
Oh, injury prone, dog. You crazy.
Now, in our Lord and Savior's year of 2024, you have a contingent who's ready to just trade the guy because he can't play. What do you say to those people, man?
We've said this before. I'll say it again. You cannot trade LaMelo Ball. You cannot. Unless the rapture happens tomorrow and the savior, whoever he or she may be, comes down and says, trade LaMelo Ball. If you are the Charlotte Hornets, you cannot trade LaMelo Ball. I don't care if he never plays another minute in a Hornets uniform healthy again. You cannot trade him. You just you hold on to him until you just simply cannot anymore. The PR hit is far too great to take a guy who, regardless of what any of us think about him, healthy or unhealthy, LaMelo Ball is like a legit 25-7-7 dude in the NBA, right?
He was close to 30-10 at one point during this season.
Right. Yeah. So you cannot trade him unless you get something spectacular in return. And I don't think with his injury history you could do that yet, right?
Right.
So this is unfortunate for the Charlotte Hornets because LaMelo Ball, I hope I'm wrong here, but I just feel like he's going to be injury prone his entire career. And because every time, and it's funny because everyone's like, what about Joel Embiid? Where's Joel Embiid right now? Where's he at?
He's on the bench. And the Philadelphia 76ers are suffering because of it.
He's not playing, right? He's an injury prone guy. Yeah, I know Joel Embiid did not play at all his first 2 seasons. And he ended up, being MVP, and he's one of the best players in the league, easily top 5, maybe top 3, but he's injured a lot, right? I think that might be the case with LaMelo Ball as well. He's just going to be a great player that is injured a lot.
Yeah, but at the same time, you'll never hear the 76ers talking about trading Joel Embiid now, will you?
You can't. I do think this. LaMelo Ball, this when he comes back, this won't be his team. He's going to have to adjust that. This is no longer his team. He's missed too much time. This team is Brandon Miller's if he wants it. And if Miles Bridges resigns, it's his team. Those guys have carried the load with LaMelo Ball sitting in street clothes for most of the season. I don't think that LaMelo Ball is going to come out and be like, all right, guys, I'm back. And everyone's going to be like, okay, all right, you got the keys again. I think that whole I want the keys thing, that time has gone.
All right, but so my counter argument to that is, and I'm speaking on fans' behalf here. Well, why should LaMelo sit out the whole season? Like, isn't it unfair to Steve Clifford to see what he has with LaMelo and Brandon Miller playing together? Like, would you or would you not want to see that, before the season's end? Don't you want to see LaMelo, Miles, and Brandon play together?
I would. I feel like LaMelo Ball, it would be in his best interest to play, even if there's only 15 games, 14 games left in the season.
Right.
I think it's in his best interest to play those games, to build some chemistry with the people that we know are going to be here next season. Brandon Miller, probably Micic, probably Trey Mann, probably Grant Williams, and it's looking like Miles Bridges too, right? Those and Nick Richards, right? So those are the guys, right? You got to build some kind of rapport with those guys and give the fans something to look forward to for next season. Although I agree with Danny here, there's no reason for the Hornets to win another game because the lottery is coming up. At the same time, I feel like the lottery is not as important this season to the Hornets as it was even in previous seasons. I think building team chemistry is probably, with LaMelo Ball, is probably more important if they can do it. Now, if LaMelo's not healthy and can't play, well, then, hey, just ride out the rest of the season, and we'll see who we can pick possibly in the top 5. But, you can't trade LaMelo Ball. LaMelo Ball going to be a Hornet until this contract runs out. And that's that. That's that.
Yeah. As far as like the games remaining this season, I mean, I'm very indifferent. I mean, there's no Wemby out there. There's no Anthony Davis out there. There's not some guy that we're all salivating.
Brandon Miller out there.
There's not even a Brandon Miller out there. And so there's no guy out there that I'm thinking is just going to change the Hornets franchise around like that. So, I still want to see the team compete. And yeah, I do think that team chemistry is important, to close the season. But in terms of LaMelo Ball and Mark Williams, I mean, look, I think what we're arguing is a moot point. I don't think we're going to see either one of those guys play another game just for risk of any other further injury. The one thing that I will look forward to, and I'm this is assuming LaMelo doesn't play another game this season. The one thing I'm really look forward to is LaMelo being able to work on basketball this season because out of his own mouth, he didn't play a lot of basketball last offseason. He spent the summer rehabbing. So if we can get a LaMelo, working on basketball for a summer, who knows what type of jump he'll take next season. And, we're being hopeful about that. So the one thing I can look forward to is not having a rehabbing Melo, but a still developing LaMelo, and hopefully, again, taking that jump next season.
I don't know. I think this was the season he was going to take that big jump from a basketball standpoint. Really,
but let me cut you off again. For a period of time, it looked like he was headed that way for a small period of time.
Yeah. When he came back from the initial injury at the beginning of the season, it was clear he was going to be an all-star, and it's a shame that he's missed yet another all-star game. And he's going to miss out on some, league-wide award consideration. What I would like to see from LaMelo this off-summer actually is increasing of basketball IQ. Now, a lot of that has to do with the coach.
Good point.
Despite what people think, a lot of that has to do with the coaching staff, and we don't even know what this coaching staff is going to look like. But I will say with the new look Hornets that we've seen in the past few weeks, I think the basketball IQ is a little bit higher, actually. I don't see as much silly plays. They don't really have a great flow to the offense because they haven't played together that much. And of course, when you're missing a player as dynamic as LaMelo, that's going to happen. But I think there's something there. I think you have a core of players who are ready to be coached up, right? I think these guys have been listening to Steve Clifford preach defense. That's been the difference, the biggest difference in the team the last few weeks is this is crazy, but the Hornets are one of the better defensive teams in the league since the trade deadline. That's absurd. That's right. It's crazy. Now they can't score, but there's something there.
Let me offer my opinion as to what's changed on defense. I think definitely a part of that is obviously personnel. Like Grant Williams is a considerably better defender than PJ Washington. You know what I mean? Trey Mann is a pretty good defender. So personnel wise, of course, you're going to improve defensively. But one other thing I think that's helping the defense, and one thing I think they should have done, probably early in the season, is the pace. They're not playing the fast-paced basketball we're used to seeing with LaMelo Ball being at point. The defense has improved, but we'll also notice that the scoring has went down. I don't have my fancy stats to back this up, but just going off observation, you don't see a lot of games in the 115s and 120s lately with the Hornets. You've seen a lot of games with the 100s and the 95s, and those scores are more prevalent than they used to. So with that being said, I don't know how that's going to change once we get our full squad, but I do think a slower pace helps. And I do think with the bench being a lot more mature, those things are helping the defense out. And I hope that continues.
Yeah, I mean, we're missing 20 to 25 points a game with LaMelo.
Right.
I would imagine the offense is going to get better, if he's back and healthy. The weird thing is that I'm not super excited about next season. I'm tired of being excited about the next season.
I think I'm tired of being excited about the next season for both of these teams. But
yeah, I'm tired of the whole, when they get healthy, I'm tired of that. I'm sick of that.
Yeah.
Okay, if they get healthy, great. I'd love to see it. Now, to be fair, the new owners, there's been no public statement of this. They've just said what all new owners are going to say about, the culture of the team and whatnot. But word on the street is that they identified that there's a deficiency in the training staff, possibly the training facilities. And that is one of the things that they're going to target in this offseason. And possibly better training facilities and staff will lead to healthier players. I think that's probably the most important thing for the Charlotte Hornets moving forward. If they stay healthy, they're a solid team. If it's like anything like this season, last season, the season before, where the second game of the season, a key player goes out for a significant amount of time, here we are back here again talking about the same thing, talking about who a draft pick is going to be.
Right.
It's as simple as that.
Right. And with that being said, I think new ownership and management is probably tired of the same thing as well. What they choose to do about it will be, another story. My question to that is, and look, man, I want to preface my statement by saying this. This is a subject that I want to save for another day because I think this discussion needs to be had, and I think this is a whole nother show. But with new ownership talking the way they are, I was wondering where was this talk when Michael Jordan bought them on the first time? But again, I'm going to save that for another show.
Okay, let me look in the camera. If you believe anything any sports franchise owner tells you as a fan,
I got some beachfront property off Batesville Road to sell you.
I have some weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. I'll sell you for cheap, dirt cheap. Yeah, I mean, what are they gonna say, man? You know what? We just bought the Charlotte Hornets because they was cheap, and we trying to make some money. So
and we had to give Michael his money back. Hint, hint, right, wink, wink. Yeah.
Of course, they're gonna come out and say all these things that they're gonna do. I mean, David Tepper said he's been saying it for how long now? 6,
right.
7 years. So the proof will be in the pudding. And now, as Hornets fans, we just have to look forward to the offseason, an underrated draft, as Danny Thompson says. I don't think this draft class is like historically bad, but it's just so tough when there have been drafts where there have been like can't miss generational prospects, and the Hornets have been part of those drafts, and we miss out. Right now,
with that being said, I will bet all the money I have we'll get the number 1 pick this year for that reason. Because there's no generational talent, that's when we'll get the number 1 pick.
And whoever they draft is going to be pretty good, right? But he's not going to be.
He's not going to be Wemby.
He might not even be number 1 pick material. Is the thing. And here's the thing about the Hornets, man. I'm tired as a fan. I'm tired of developing guys. I'm tired of it. That's why I'm like, please trade that pick. Just see if you can get a star. Right?
You want the known commodity.
Right,
yeah.
Right. Okay. Right. So let's say Miles resigns. You got Miles Bridges. You got Brandon Miller. You got hopefully healthy Mark Williams, LaMelo Ball, Grant Williams, Vasily.
You already have a solid developed core right there.
Right. That's solid. Right. You put an all-star. Don't even have to be a superstar. You put an all-star,
proven all-star
caliber player, which he might not even be in his prime, but you could definitely get him for a first and some throwaway guys. You put him with that and round that out. Why draft some guy that we've got to develop and wait for his game to get? We got to wait a whole nother season or two.
Some 18-year-old kid who you have to wait another 3-4 years to really hit his prime. Right. I get it, man. Yeah.
Because I mean, as good as Brandon Miller is, and honestly, right now he's my favorite Hornet. He's still having to grow. He's doing rookie stuff every once in a while. It's going to take him at least 2 more seasons before Brandon Miller is like all-star level, right?
Right.
Man, okay,
which is the exciting part about Brandon Miller? Like he's far from a finished product yet, and he's still that productive and raw. And you can look at him and say, we really have something with this guy. But again, like you said, we're waiting another 2 years for us to see what Brandon Miller could really be. So
yeah, and I don't feel like doing that with another rookie unless it's gonna be he's gonna be a generational talent, which I agree with Danny that this draft might be underrated, but I mean, I'll put it like this. A lot of people were saying Scoot Henderson was a generational talent. And remember, we on the show said we don't see it. I think Scoot Henderson is going to be a solid NBA pro. Generational talent? No, absolutely. That conversation is out of the window. So I don't see anyone even in this draft that I'm thinking is like even getting the hype that a guy like Scoot was getting.
Right.
Maybe that's a good thing, though. Maybe that's a good thing.
I see a lot of wait and see guys in this draft. Like, there are some names being that kind of being floated around. Guys got a lot of upside. I like Ron Holland. I like Dillingham. But again, man, none of those guys strikes me as they're going to change the Charlotte Hornets franchise around.
I'm gonna leave the college shit to you and Danny, because you know how even though I love college basketball, it's still like college shit to me. And so far, everything that you've said about the Hornets picks has been bang on. I mean, I remember I was all happy when we got James Bouknight. You were like, guys, I'm a UConn fan, and I'm telling you, we're gonna have some problems with this kid. We was like, man, shut up, Jamal. Shut up.
Hey, by the way, did anybody pick up Bouknight yet? Like we were told. Because I was told, Bouknight he'll be on the roster as soon as he gets cut by the Hornets. That's what I was told. So
yeah, you know what? Yeah,
Godspeed.
That's really sad, because I think that he is a talented basketball player, but it just goes to show how serious you have to take the game at this level.
So what you're saying is that they call it professional basketball for a reason. Is that what you're saying?
You got to be a pro. It's
your
job.
Yep.
It's your job. I mean, basketball is not, and it's not just your job. Basketball is now your
life.
I mean, the reason that the greats are the greats is because that's all they thought about. That's all they ever. And when you look at a guy like Kobe or even LeBron, who a lot of people say lacks, what Kobe and Mike had, but like to those guys, like basketball is an obsession. Like LeBron James is obsessed with playing basketball. That's why he's still playing as good as he is at the age of he's 39 now, whatever.
Right.
Like if you're not obsessed with playing basketball, then you'll be James Bouknight. So
no doubt.
Although JT Thor is obsessed with playing basketball, and I wish he wasn't. So, bro, just find something else. Just find a name. Now, JT Thor been playing hard because Davis Bertans, it looked like, you know what I'm saying? He gonna come in and do exactly what we wanted JT Thor to do.
Yeah,
and then actually do it.
Look, man, I know the record probably doesn't really indicate some big, huge change, man. But at the same time, I will say this, and I think everybody's got to agree: the level of basketball when the bench comes in now is night and day than it was when JT Thor and Bryce McGowens and Nathan Mensah used to hit the floor. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like it looks a lot more functional than it did, man. And that's why I'm not really sweating the record. Like, you know what I mean? Because I knew those guys were not going to come in and make us some 10th seed or 9th seed. I knew that was not going to happen. All I wanted to see was functional basketball when our starters go to the bench, and I'm happy with what I'm seeing with that so far.
Yeah, only having one true center on the roster is really what's hurt the Hornets the most.
And look, man, I hate to present this simple argument, but not having LaMelo hurts too, man, because a lot of the Hornets struggles are turnovers. You got a bunch of new guys who haven't played together. And they're turning the ball over a lot more than what we're used to seeing.
Could have survived some without LaMelo because Brandon Miller and Miles Bridges have been playing so well in his absence. But when Nick Richards is off the floor, other teams go, okay, just put somebody bigger than Grant Williams on the floor and then give him the ball. And that's what other teams are doing. And it's been rough with the Hornets. Because of that. And as much as I like Grant Williams, I don't like seeing him play the 5, just like I didn't like seeing PJ Washington.
Yeah, same.
I want to see centers be centers.
And look, man, other coaches get paid a lot of money for a reason, right? And at some point in time, other coaches said, you know what, they're small. Other coaches say, you know what, they haven't played together. Let's start trapping let's start trapping the point guards a little more. So two things we're seeing that we're not really used to seeing with the Hornets historically. With I guess with Clifford's teams, we don't usually see We don't usually get killed on the offensive glass like that, and we usually don't turn the ball over like that. And those two things have been very prevalent since the trade, man. And that's what, to me, that's what's killed us.
So in the last week, coming off a really, really good win versus Brooklyn, a win that I'm glad they got because Brooklyn was kind of full of themselves.
Yeah.
I think they felt like, okay, we can beat the Charlotte Hornets, right? But then after that, a very Hornets thing happened. You beat a team better than you really in Brooklyn, and then you lose to the Detroit Pistons
for the third straight time this season.
Who really you really wanted to beat because you needed them to, beat the Hornets record of worst
team
record
ever.
in NBA history. It looks like that's not going to happen. And then they pull off a really good win against Memphis, who really is in the same boat as the Hornets, right? And then you lose two that you weren't expected to win, but they could have beat Philly. I was really surprised at how competitive they were with the 76ers, even though the Sixers were going these long runs. And even after maybe the worst flagrant 2 call I've ever seen.
In watching basketball, ever.
That was, I say all the time, man, the refs is wrong take. I don't see how that's a flagrant 2. The flagrant 2 is supposed to be intent. Unnecessary movement to indicate intent, right?
Right.
Do you really think that Brandon Miller's intent was to hit Tyrese Maxey in the face with his forearm?
Especially when that man was literally about to fall, not go out of bounds. Fall out of bounds.
After he got fouled, but they weren't going to call that, right?
They weren't going to call that one.
Right. So the Hornets continue to play well.
I tweeted this when that happened, man. Like, I'm so sick of referees thinking that fans come to see them. Like, you're not gonna say and tell me there's not even a Philly fan who thought that wasn't BS, man. Like, come on, dude.
When I was watching the actual broadcast, because they want to see Brandon Miller play, right?
Right.
Eric Collins even said a lot of people came there to see, this dynamic rookie play, and that on that kind of call, I just didn't feel a flagrant 2 was warranted. I don't see it. I don't see it. I've seen far more egregious stuff by other players in the NBA.
That was incidental contact at worst, man.
Yeah, flagrant 1, letter of the law, fair enough. Forearm to the face. Although I've seen players get elbowed in the neck and all kinds of stuff, and not even get a flagrant 1. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. I think the refs on the take. FanDuel just hit in a lot of states.
You stole my point.
Yeah, they got it.
Now that I'm paying attention to sports bet now, it was so interesting that the line on that game was 10 points, right?
Yeah.
And in the fourth quarter, before out of everybody in the world, Nick Batum hits the 3 to put us up by what? Put 10 points.
10 points, yep.
It was another BS call right before that happened. And I can't put God, man, you got to help me out with what it was. But I kept thinking, like, if Nick Batum hits this shot and put them up 10 points, I'm going to start looking at this stuff sideways, man. Like,
I've been looking at it sideways. I just don't trust NBA refs. I don't think the game is nearly as complex. The rules are not as complex as the NFL. NFL refs, I'll give a pass. I don't think NFL refs are corrupt. I think the rules are confusing, and there's a little bit of incompetence there, and there's so much subjectivity allowed in NFL rulings. Whereas in the NBA, like, I think they just be doing whatever. And NBA refs I think they referee on emotion based on anything else.
Yeah, and I think a lot of them have their egos are a little too big.
Yeah. All right, before we move on. Normally we would do predictions, but I'm going to do something different this time. There are 14 games left in the season. The Charlotte Hornets have won 17 games. Do we reach 20 wins?
I'm going to cautiously say yes.
Okay, so let me read off the remaining ones. Orlando, at Atlanta, at Cleveland, home against Cleveland, home against Golden State, home against Clippers, home against Celtics, home against Portland, home against Orlando, home against OKC, home against Dallas, and then they close the season on a 3-game road trip to Atlanta, Boston, and Cleveland.
Okay, I'm going to change my answer to no, actually. That's a rough schedule down the stretch, man.
That's a tough schedule, but you play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-game homestand.
That's a rough schedule, man.
All those teams are really.
So you got
teams here on out, except for the Hawks.
But even the Hawks are fighting for play-in position, right. So they have something to play for. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's tough. I don't see a win. I don't.
They'll beat Portland.
Maybe the Hawks.
I'm sorry. Next week. Well, yeah, next week I don't see a win. Next week, no.
Yeah. For the rest of the season, let's say we be in both the games against the Hawks and Atlanta. But even when we beat both of them, that only puts the Hornets at 19 wins. I don't. And and if Steph Curry plays on the 29th, that's a key game. If Curry plays, then you know how Steph Curry plays in Charlotte.
Right.
He comes here, he starts acting crazy. He started doing just crazy stuff, scoring 40, 50 points.
But if we're being fair, last, 4 or 5 times we've played Golden State, we've either competed or won. I mean, It's not like they've just completely kicked our ass when we played them. You know what I mean? And they're not that great this year. Let's just be clear, man. They're not very good this year. So there's a shot there. I mean, I'm not picking us to win, but it wouldn't surprise me if we did.
I don't know, man. The Hornets going to sneak some wins in here they don't deserve. Maybe home against Cleveland.
That'll be tough, man.
Yeah, I mean, all these teams are just flat out better than the Charlotte Hornets are. So,
I tell you what, man. If there's one game I hope I'm wrong about, it's the one against the Orlando Magic. I am growing to really hate them. I'm growing to really hate the Orlando Magic. I don't like the Wagner brothers. They have the punchable faces. I don't like what's his face's son? What's the Duke dude's name? I don't like Greg Anthony's son. I just don't. I'm growing to really hate the Orlando Magic, man. So I hope I'm wrong about that.
Yeah, I agree with you there. They're a good team though, and they're better than the Hornets. So they can stay healthy.
I don't like the fact that they lucked out and got a number 1 pick like we've never done before.
They've got 3 number 1 picks. 4. Right? Or is Howard number 2?
Nah, Howard's number 1.
So Shaquille O'Neal, Anthony
Shaq,
Hardaway,
Dwight Howard,
and
Paolo Banchero.
Banchero.
Must be nice.
How?
Must be nice.
Name the number 1 picks in Charlotte Hornets history.
Say it again.
Name the number 1 picks in Charlotte Hornets history.
Larry Johnson. That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
That's the only one.
Out of all the years we've sucked, that's it.
That's the guy.
Yep.
All right. Speaking of number 1 picks, Carolina Panthers don't have one. They could have had one if they had traded Brian Burns last season, but they didn't.
But instead, we have a bag of Funyuns and some red Gatorade that we traded for Brian Burns.
Yeah, I might got to stick a Winter Fresh over here, throwing the deal. Boy, so the Carolina Panthers. Let me say this. I feel like Dan Morgan is cleaning house.
Yeah.
He's like, all right, it's me now. I'm the guy.
I want nothing from the Matt Rule or Frank Reich era. Yeah, nothing.
No more Remember, the joke was always, who's the GM of the Carolina? We know who the GM is.
Dan Morgan has put his stamp on who's the GM. We can for sure say that.
So Dan Morgan, and I think he's like, this is a mess. This is trash. We starting over. And I know a lot of people will lament the fact that, we screwed up the Brian Burns thing, but that's water under the table. They're crying over spilled milk. Dan Morgan realized, all right, we should have took those 2 first-round picks last season, but we didn't. So now we got to get what we can. And then so what does he do? He goes out and makes a signing for a player who statistically had the same production as Brian Burns last season.
For way less money. You don't have to pay him $30 million.
Yeah, 3 times less. That seems like a pretty good GM move to me.
Not bad to me.
And then he does a few other things. He says, hey, you know what's really sucked? Our O-line. All you guys are excused. Well, Taylor Moton, you get to stick around. And Brady Christensen, we're going to actually move you back to your natural spot. We're going to do that because that's the smart thing to do, right? And then we're going to go out and we're going to get Robert Hunt and Damian Lewis. Those guys are pretty good offensive linemen. I think Dan Morgan's trying to do some work.
Yeah,
he's trying to put in work.
I think also, as bad as a position Dan Morgan is in, he's doing what he can do. He's made the best out of what he has.
Picks up Deontay Johnson from the Steelers, Ashawn Robinson, defensive tackle, Josie Jewell from the Denver Broncos.
Yep.
Dane Jackson at quarterback, DJ Wanham, who is going to replace Brian Burns. A lot of good, solid pickups. Now, the thing is, how much does this really move the needle as far as the Carolina Panthers go?
Well, look, man, here I go, trying not to be too excited. But let's put this in its proper perspective. Robert Hunt, I think he only allowed 3 quarterback pressures all season last season.
That's insane.
Needless to say, that is a way significant upgrade over anything we had on that offensive line. You understand what I mean? So just the fact that we've added 2 functional pieces on the offensive line as opposed to completely dysfunction on the previous offensive line, to me, that's significant progress. The defensive line.
Hold on, real quick. I'm gonna read you a Robert Hunt stat. That might be the dumbest stat I've ever read about an offensive lineman. Okay. Now, first of all, his size. He's 6'6", 330. That's a big boy.
That's crazy.
That's a big dude. Okay. He's won 90% of his pass blocks for his entire career.
That's crazy, man.
Okay, but check this out. In his career, he's played 3,316 snaps. You know how many sacks he's allowed? 12.
Wow.
12 in 3,000.
Like 97%, man.
For his entire career.
Wow, man.
12 sacks. You know how many sacks Ike Ekwonu
20 last season.
Only allowed today. Good move, Carolina Panthers. But I'm sorry, what were we saying? You're talking about the defensive line.
Well, let me change courses just a bit here. We all know Dan Morgan is what? If he's not anything else, Dan Morgan is an OG Carolina Panther. What do I mean by that? Dan Morgan was on that Super Bowl team. He was on that team that went to the first Super Bowl.
Held the record for most. I think he still got it. Most tackles in the Super Bowl.
Most tackles in the Super Bowl.
Yep.
But you know what? You know where I'm going with this? What was so special about that first Super Bowl team? You know what's so special about that? Both the defensive and the offensive lines.
Yep.
Dan Morgan knows that to build a successful team, you got to build it from the inside out. He is working on them trenches first. He'll worry about the skill positions at another time. But he knew in the trenches, especially with the O-line trenches, that needed to significantly get better, which on paper it already has, man. So I do like what Dan Morgan's doing. Let's see how it works out next season, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna argue here. 7 games. If the Carolina Panthers win 7 games next season, boy, I'm happy. Yeah.
What more can we ask for?
I'll be rocking my Panthers gear again if we
Yeah.
win some games. Because right now the Panthers are the laughing stock of the NFL, which as low as the Panthers have been before, this might be the lowest they've ever been, and I mean that from a reputation standpoint.
Right.
Nobody likes the owner. David Tepper is seen as a joke. The team can't win anything. Everyone feels like Bryce Young is going to be trash. The Panthers is just in a really bad spot now.
They have the blueprint on how to not run a team the last 7 to 8 years.
Definitely. I mean, they are worse than. And this may not even be true, but on paper, and as far as the media is concerned, no team has run worse than the Carolina Panthers right now. And a lot of these offseason moves, actually, the media is trying to use that as a way to accentuate the point. Like, oh yeah, they got rid of Brian Burns, but look what they could have had
Right.
for Brian Burns, right? And it's
Right.
like, well, that time came and went. So.
Yeah, but me and you say this often, man. If you make the right moves the first time, you're not digging yourself out of these holes, and that's what Dan Morgan's doing. He's have to dig the Panthers out of these holes that they've put themselves in. So, and again, man, just with the position he's been put in, I give him an A for effort for at least making solid moves. We haven't made a move that's like, oh my God, this is just. We never make the big splash, right? Which we never expect from the Panthers.
Robert Hunt is maybe the biggest move we made in a while as far as free agency signing that I can remember.
Right. Which I'm fine with. And you'll even have some pundits who said that was an overpay. My rebuttal to that is, in terms of the offensive line, you can't overpay anybody on the offensive line.
Yeah, it's impossible. Miles Sanders, I don't know where we're at with that. With a better offensive line, we may see closer to what we saw with Miles in Philly, but Chuba Hubbard ended the season pretty strongly, I felt like. And I think that it's his starting job to lose in training camp. By him, I mean Chuba Hubbard. That's but that's a move. It's a little bit harder to clean yourself up of the Miles Sanders move than it is Brian Burns is a free agent next season after the franchise tag expires. That's why you're able to make that deal, whereas Miles Sanders is still under his deal. So
real quick, man, it's been reported Chase Young and Jadeveon Clowney are visiting the Panthers. I think maybe Clowney already visited, if I remember correctly. Out of those two guys, man, do you want to see either one of those, any of those people in the Panthers uniform? And if so, who?
I think Chase Young would be a very good addition. He got Rookie of the Year over Brian Burns, a decision that we disagreed with, but he's still very capable. I'm not sure if I don't think him or Burns is like the dominant pass rush guy that people want them to be or the media wants them to be, but I'd like to see him in his uniform. Clowney, his time came and went, and he was never quite the pro that we all want him to be. I mean, he had maybe the best college defensive highlight in history, right?
Right.
And in fact, that highlight might be what got him drafted so highly. I mean, you got a guy that can penetrate the line like that and take someone's hat off in the backfield. That's kind of guy you want an NFL team. He was never that guy, even though he got to play, across from Watt. He was just never that guy. Homecoming thing.
Guys, I have an interesting irony with Jadeveon Clowney. I want you to hear me out real quick, man. I distinctly remember Merrill Hydes coming on TV telling everyone, hey, y'all need to slow down on Jadeveon Clowney. He's good, but he ain't great. And Merrill Hydes was breaking down every reason why Jadeveon Clowney was good, but he ain't great. He went to his technique. He said he has all the raw talent in the world, but this guy is not going to be who y'all think he is. And he was 100% accurate.
Merrill Hydes is an underrated sports journalist.
But I'm going to tell you why this should scare us, Kaiser. I hate to bring this up. I hate to do this. But we have a duty to just report what people say. Merrill Hydes has said the same things about Bryce Young, unfortunately. So I'm just gonna say, God help us if he's right. I hope he's wrong. I'm gonna leave it at that.
Wrong too, but I mean, sometimes you pick the wrong guy, especially the number one pick. Picking a quarterback number one is the riskiest thing to do in sports. It is. I mean, we've seen this before where you got two guys and one ends up being the guy. I mean, we all remember Ryan Leaf and Peyton Manning, right? I mean, it could have been reversed, right? I mean, we never know. So I do want to speak real quick about Canales. I like the more I hear him talk football stuff, the more I like him and the more I like the hiring. I'm still not, when you take a guy who you say, hey, I want an offensive minded coach. And then you get a guy who ran the offense in a very good Tampa Bay team, actually, a very solid team. But they weren't like offensive dynamos, and they
were ranked 20th,
right? Yeah, it's kind of like I don't know. But hearing Canales talk and what he plans to do with the Panthers, I'm interested. I'm way more interested than I was with Matt Rule or Frank Reich.
Yeah,
and yeah, I agree. Bryce Young got hosed by having Frank Reich as his head coach. We said this when they hired Frank Reich, and the whole Steve Wilkes thing's notwithstanding, Frank Reich had this unwarranted reputation as like the quarterback whisperer. But it's like, dude, you had Andrew Luck, you had an all-pro version of Phillip Rivers on the downside, right? It's like,
and you won nothing without functional quarterback. Every time you had a bad quarterback, you sucked.
It's like I don't get that. Like, it's like, bro, yeah, Andrew Luck. Like Andrew Luck would be in the Hall of Fame if he hadn't retired early, right? So, I like what I'm hearing from Canales so far. He seems to be all in, and I agree with this take. This might be the most sensible take I've seen on Bryce Young since. Bryce is too accurate and smart to fail. Bryce clearly has the in between the ears for the NFL.
Yeah,
and I think he's
very mature.
I think he is actually an accurate thrower of the football. If you look at the mistakes he made, it was because the pace of the game was just a little too fast for him because, I mean, they had me out there playing left tackle. So I think this season, he's going to get those reps. He's going to have a stronger O-line. He's going to have, I think, a coach who better understands the modern game than Frank Reich does. I think Bryce is going to be okay. Is he going to be the guy? And when I say the guy, I mean, is he going to be like the next Cam Newton even? I don't know. I don't know. Remains to be seen. But
yeah,
I have faith in him for next season. So I mean, I think the Panthers are doing everything they need to do this offseason. And I don't know if anything Tepper does can save his reputation. But if these moves work out and he sinks into the background like we've seen him doing, then I think he'll be okay. The Panthers will be okay. And if the Panthers win, if the Panthers win 6 games next season, everyone will be off of the Panthers trash trade.
And isn't that all we want to see? Don't we want to see like hope for improvement, right? Like, don't we want to see that we actually have that the arrow is going to point up? That's all we want to see, right? We don't want to see hopelessness like we saw last season.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. As long as the Panthers look bad, we always say the preseason games, they don't really, they say they don't count, but they do matter. They mattered less last season. Out of the preseason is shorter. But the one thing that I noticed from the preseason was the O-line was still trash even during the preseason. And I tried to just be like, well, hey, it's preseason. Okay.
Hey, I tried to say, well, they're just having gel jet, and it never happens.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But boy, did that carry over to the regular season. So
it got worse, actually.
What I'm hoping is during the preseason, I see what looks like at least a competent NFL offensive line
Yeah.
This coming season. So, all right. So, one other thing we got to talk about before we get out of here: NCAA tournament coming up.
Yeah.
Very surprising ACC tournament. Maybe not all that surprising. And although me, a Carolina fan, I was actually glad to see NC State win because we know Carolina's going to the dance. And it's nice to have another North Carolina team in the dance,
no
especially
doubt.
NC State, who doesn't have near the prestige as, Carolina or Duke, but, they do have a championship to their name, and they could be, pretty plucky when it comes to the tournament. Who was your pick? Yeah, I know. Do you really think though that the Huskies are gonna?
I absolutely do. I absolutely do. I'm not. This is Kaza, man. 100% real talk, man. This is not Jamal superfan talking. The UConn Huskies are going to be the number 1 overall seed. Like the selection Sundays in about 20 minutes.
They are. They will be.
Mark my word. They're going to be the number 1 overall seed, man. And I put it to you like this. I'm being totally objective here, man. We know in March Madness, anything can happen. If anything crazy happens in any sport, it can happen in March Madness, right? I'm going to put it to you like this, man. Using the example of NC State, you always want to pay attention not to the teams with the best records all the time, but the hot teams going into the tournament.
Yes.
Now, as that relates to UConn ain't the hot team. They're the most consistent team.
Mm-hmm.
I watch this team every game, man. This team has a championship DNA where it's almost like they know we got to turn this thing on, man. And that's that kind of intangible you don't see in every team. Now, the only thing that can beat the UConn Huskies are the UConn Huskies. And the only other team out there that I think could possibly knock them off are the number 2 Houston Cougars, who are just coming off of a game where they only scored 40 points in their conference title. So I say this, man, look out for Houston because I do believe they're a very good team.
Mm-hmm.
UConn can only beat themselves. And I will say, man, just look out for other hot teams going into the tournament. Cincinnati is really hot. That's about it, man. But I, with all that being said, I am objectively and confidently picking UConn to repeat again, man. I really am.
All right. Here we go. A UConn repeat. I don't have a pick, just because. Although I do feel like you said, of the expected number 1 seeds, at least the expected number 1 seeds before the end of this tournament, in which you had Houston, UConn, North Carolina, and Purdue. I do think UConn is probably the best equipped of those 4 to win the whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm a Tar Heels fan. I don't have a whole lot of faith in them for some reason. However, mainly because the reason they lost to NC State was because people will say, well, the Tar Heels shot poorly. Yeah, they shot poorly because boy, the Wolfpack was in their jerseys last night.
They played because they got D'd up. That's why. Yeah.
I mean, and you're gonna face teams in the tournament that are better defensive teams than NC State. And
absolutely.
You know how the defense is when tournament time comes around. The defense ratchets up a notch. The refs tend to look the other way. North Carolina has to find a way to beat that kind of physicality. I don't think they can do it. Actually, Baycott's performance was a little underwhelming last night against a guy who wasn't as skilled, but way more physical. So
the one thing I don't like about North Carolina is they are way too dependent on one guy. Yeah, they're way too dependent on RJ Davis, man. And RJ Davis is a very good basketball player, man. But I just going up against some of these more experienced teams and teams with more depth, I just don't see that lasting very long. Look, Steph Curry can carry Davidson to a sweet eight to elite eight.
Yeah,
RJ Davis ain't that good. He's good, but he ain't that good. So without that depth, man, I just don't see. I see Carolina maybe going to 16, and that probably being it, man.
Yeah, I agree. All right, you got any shout outs?
I want to. Hey, look to those to everybody who plays with the brackets out there. I'm going to advise y'all on one thing, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Stay away from the Kansas Jayhawks. The arrow is pointing all the way down with the Kansas Jayhawks. Believe me on that one, y'all. Stay away.
Okay. I'm rolling with Jamal's bracket this year. Also, y'all, watch those 5-12 matchups.
Yep. It's every time.
In like the
Kaza, funny you say that, because don't be surprised if Kansas ends up as a 5 seed.
Exactly. Yeah, they're 5th seed. I would definitely pick against them. Yeah, I don't know. One day I'm gonna win that $1 million bracket.
Same.
Shout outs.
Oh God, I got a big shout at this week. I don't know what Percocet kid started the "we done with the 90s"
oh my God
fad. I don't know what drug-induced baby started this fad of presenting y'all with minute-long YouTube and TikTok clips trying to prove to y'all that, the 90s was overrated or it was trash or whatever these kids are saying. If you want to make an argument that today's basketball is so much better than the 90s, you got to do way better than minute-long TikTok clips or YouTube clips, man. Do you know how much bad basketball I can pull from any Hornets game all season and present it to the world and be like, today's basketball ain't that great either? Y'all, look, and everybody with some sense. Kazi, you know this too. I hate to go here, but it's these LeBron fans just trying to make their case. Jordan played in this era and LeBron played it. It's so stupid, and I'm sick of it, man. Stop it, please, y'all.
They can't stop sampling the 90s, but they done with it. Yeah, it's like I don't want to hear that. It for one, it's too difficult to compare eras because the game has evolved so much in 30 years.
Right.
So there's that. But don't disrespect what got us here in the first place. Don't. Right. I remind everyone, LeBron James, what number did he wear when he came in the league? Right. That wasn't an accident. He wasn't just given that number. He wore that number because Michael Jordan was his idol, right?
Right.
And he may never admit it, but Michael Jordan's his favorite player all the time, and he probably still thinks Michael Jordan is the GOAT. So
the 90s are inspiring everything that y'all are watching these days. So miss me with it, man.
Yeah, bring back hand checking. We will see who's better. Shout out, a little bit of a shout out because this kind of hurts my soul, but a group called Charlotte East now owns the trademark for the East Lamar logo. They actually own the actual signs from East Lamar. The actual logo, all of the logos and signs were saved from East Lamar when it was demolished about 10 years ago, and they've been in storage for all this time. Sometimes they bring them out and display them at one of the Charlotte museums here. But they filed for and got a trademark on the logo. So the reason that this is both a shout out and a shout at is because I'm glad that somebody realizes that our city has a little bit of history and is trying to preserve. Right. However, having said that, the East Lamar logo is probably one of the most iconic things in Charlotte. For those of us that are from Charlotte, two Charlotteans, you see it everywhere, and it has been used commercially by so many different business owners, entrepreneurs, or just because you see it on t-shirts, all kinds of stuff, stickers, all kinds of stuff. that's gone now because now Charlotte East is the trademark owner of. There you go. Yep. Charlotte East is the trademark owner, so therefore you can't just go around willy nilly creating Eastland Mall logo stuff and selling it. Now they haven't come out and stated, if they're going to allow people to do that, but I'm going to assume that you don't get a trademark on something and not protect that trademark. Maybe they did it to kind of protect the Eastland Mall logo from corporate entities swooping down on it, but at the same time, it's like a corporation is gonna be like, man, let's use the Eastland Mall logo for something. To me, like that trademark kind of hurts those of us that would like to see the Eastland Mall logo circulated around, the city more. I'm not, and they haven't. I'm speculating. They haven't officially come out and said, no, y'all can't use the Eastland Mall logo on skateboards no more or whatever. But on their website, it does say in bold print, the Eastland Mall logo is now trademarked by Charlotte East.
Yeah, so. yeah. That is such a Charlotte thing, man. Just like you're like, hey, here's our little piece of culture. So let's let these outsiders take it and do whatever with it.
Yeah. Oh well. Long live Eastland. If I ever get a tattoo, and I won't, it would be that. There you go.
Should get one, man.
But no, now I'm the rare breed that doesn't have one. Like,
I don't have one either. Me neither.
Yeah, like man, maybe it's a Charlotte thing. Everybody, in my family has one.
Like what's the age limit to getting your first? Like aren't we like well beyond the age limit now? Like ain't once you get past like 35, you can't get your first tattoo, can you?
Man, I ain't got no money for no damn tattoo. First of all.
That part.
Them shits be expensive. You know how much an Eastland Mall logo tat would cost?
A good one. A good one. Yeah. Yeah, you're gonna pay $45 for something some crap.
Right, yeah. You probably gonna pay half a stack for Eastland Mall tattoo, and it probably won't even be that good. So
I'm good on that one, brother.
I'd rather go see the Hornets lose.
Well, under construction fans, it's nice seeing y'all. Know we've been away for a minute.
Thank y'all for coming back. I know it's been a minute. We've been away, and we'll be back. We're on our regular cadence now. We'll be back in a location. We'll try and be back at the bar because I still got the bar. So we'll try and be back at the bar.
I'm personally very happy to hear that.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna get rid of the bar. So there was no way. There's too much.
As y'all can see, it looks a little different in Kaz's background, but
Yeah, I don't even have my studio set up. But that's how life goes. But thanks everyone for coming back, and we cannot wait to move forward with you guys. So
yes, sir.
It's been fun.
Good seeing you, man.
We will see you guys next Sunday.
Peace out, y'all.
Happy St. Patrick's Day. Today's St. Patrick's Day. We're supposed to get drunk.
Weekend, yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go get drunk. All right.
There you go.
Peace.
Peace out.
All right.